Welcome back to our workout tip of the week. The last movement in our pre-exercise segment is static stretch. Coach, what is static stretch?
Static stretching is any stretching you do that you hold for a period of time. This is going to give you a couple different things: of relaxation of your stretch reflex, which is why we'll stretch for 20 to 30 seconds when we do static stretching, and also stretching that gives you a little more intensity on the range of motion that you get. We've already seen dynamic stretching where there's movement correlated with opposite stretch. Now we're going to focus on just individual muscle groups and we're going to hold these positions. So now Coach Hurd is going to get down in what we call a hip flexor position. The first thing you'll see is his chest stays even with his hips. His front leg is at a 90-degree angle. We're actually stretching the left hip. So he can hold this position, like I said, 20, 30 seconds. That knee's in the ground. The back toe is pointed. He can even rotate away to get a little more intense of a stretch. It's going to stretch the hip flexor, which is a very important muscle, and anytime you pick your leg up, lift or run. He's not going to transition into a groin stretch. He's going to drop his inside right shoulder inside this leg that's already in position. Notice again, similar to the Spider-Man walk we showed you last week with hip mobility, his knee will come out just a little bit, his shoulder will dip in. He's in an intense stretch in his groin area and also in his trail leg, which is his hip flexor, same position. Again, we'll hold it 20, 30 seconds. The next transition to a hamstring stretch. The front leg goes out, it's fully extended. There's a little slight bend for comfort in his knee. The more flexible you are, the less bend you'll have in the knee. His toe is up and he's gonna reach towards his leg, getting a hamstring stretch. He can play with which arm he reaches with. The more flexible you are, the more you can go across and get even more of a stretch. Again, the whole thing here is slow, controlled. We've shown you dynamic. Now we're going to move to more static, where we're going to hold these positions. Now he's going to go into an outside hip or IT band stretch. The key here is to lay this leg flat. You'll notice the knee is out in front of him. He's going to get some of the outside of the thigh on the ground. That makes sure we get the right muscle stretch. And his back leg is extended. You'll lean into it, and the more flexible you are, the more that shin will kind of reach and come across at a 90-degree angle to the hip. Now we're going to move to assisted stretching. Assisted stretching goes on when you get assistance from an apparatus. Coach Hurd is going to use a stretch cord here. You could also use a long towel, or if you have a partner, you can do the same thing. Notice he's got it wrapped around the center of his foot just so it won't slip off. He's going to get a little bit of resistance to help pull it up. And now what the assistance does allows him to get a little more range of motion than he'd get on his own. And so it's a good way to stretch. It's a more advanced technique, so if you haven't stretched before, you'll start with a static, basic stretching, then you can progress to assistant stretching to get more range of motion. Same drill, we'll hold it 20 to 30 seconds. So we recommend doing this with the hamstrings, and we'll also do it with the hip flexor quad group. Now you're gonna roll over on his side and get his hip flexor. Really important to get your hip flexor, you're gonna get your hip pushed forward, and then you're gonna actually lift his leg up a little bit as he pulls it over his head to get the front of his thigh. If you wanted to sharpen the angle and pull it in tighter, you get a little more quad, which is more the lower front of the thigh. These are the two exercises we recommend most with the assistant stretching. And that'll conclude the static stretch portion of our pre-exercise segment.
Thanks, Coach. Tune in next week for lower body strength.